6 months before the wedding, I packed my things and left Chicago. The city lights blurred behind the train window, fading like old dreams. I traded skyscrapers for cornfields, boardrooms for open skis. People said I was throwing my education away. Maybe I was throwing away the wrong kind of success. Evan met me at the small town station, truck dusty, smile real. We drove past endless rows of fields, brown and sleeping. "This is where life begins," he said, his voice low but sure. The farmhouse was old, the roof crooked, the floors creaked. But it felt honest, like something that could hold a future. The first weeks were chaos, rain leaking through the ceiling. I learned to mend fences, to plant seedlings with trembling hands. Blisters became badges, proof of effort no one could mock. We worked from sunrise to the colorless edge of night. Sometimes I cried from exhaustion, then laughed without reason. Evan would hand me water and whisper, one row at a time. Neighbors stopped by, bringing pie and stories about the soil. They spoke with pride, like guardians of something sacred. I began to understand that the land doesn't owe you anything. You earn its trust, day after day, seed by seed. When we sold our first batch of vegetables, I cried again. Not from money, but from the quiet joy of creation. My parents didn't visit, not even once. They sent short texts, polite and distant. Clara posted photos of her new condo and champagne brunches. The comparison was silent but heavy. Lily, my younger sister, was the only one who called. She asked about the crops, not about the gossip. Her curiosity felt like sunlight after weeks of clouds. One evening, Evan built a small table from old barn wood. We ate dinner there, the air filled with the sound of crickets. He looked at me and said, "They'll never understand, but that's okay." I wanted to believe him, wanted to feel enough. Still, some nights, I missed the city's noise and anonymity. Here, every failure had a witness, even the wind. But the mornings made up for everything. Golden light touched the fields, and hope felt tangible again. We made plans, real ones, irrigation systems, greenhouse expansion. Evan's notebooks were filled with sketches and equations. He dreamed big, but worked small, steady as rainfall. I learned to dream again, too. Not of approval, not of applause, but of growth. We started a weekly farmers' market with other locals. People came, curious, then loyal. They said our produce tasted different, alive somehow. I realized that what we were building wasn't just a farm. It was a quiet rebellion against everything we were told mattered. The dirt under my nails felt like a new kind of freedom. Evan once said, "The land doesn't lie." And maybe that's why I stayed. Because even if my family turned away, the earth never did. Every sunrise was forgiveness, every harvest a second chance. And deep down, I knew this was where the story truly began. 6 months after the wedding, an envelope arrived from Clara. Gold edges, embossed letters, an invitation disguised as a demand. She was hosting a summer gathering at her Vermont estate. Evan looked at it once and said, "We should go." I wasn't sure if he meant courage or curiosity. We drove there in our old truck, mud still clinging to the tires. The gate guard eyed us like we'd taken a wrong turn. Inside, the mansion gleamed, glass and marble against green hills. I smoothed my simple linen dress, suddenly aware of my hands. Clara greeted us with a hug that felt rehearsed. "Lena, darling, you look so authentic," she said, eyes scanning my shoes. Her husband Darren raised a glass from the patio. "Still playing in the dirt, Evan," he called, voice booming with arrogance. Evan only smiled. The dirt's treating us well. Guests laughed politely, their laughter sharp as champagne bubbles. We took seats near the edge of the table, far from the glittering crowd. Dinner was art on plates, each bite smaller than a seed. Father toasted Clara for her success, glancing at us like a footnote. "When will you two return to the real world?" he asked. I set down my fork, heartbeat steady. "We've been profitable for 2 years now," I said. The silverware froze midair, like a photo caught in time. Evan added, "We supply 12 restaurants and cut water use by 30%. A silence settled, heavy and uncomfortable. Darren cleared his throat and changed the subject too quickly. Later, Lily found me near the garden. Her voice was a whisper under the music. "Something's wrong," she said. "Darren's firm is collapsing." I frowned. "How do you know?" "I heard Dad and him arguing about investments, guarantees, losses." The pieces clicked into place, sharp and cold. My chest tightened. "They're in trouble." Lily nodded. "And there's more. Darren told a restaurant not to buy from you." The betrayal burned worse than any insult. Evan appeared, quiet but alert. I told him everything, and his jaw clenched just once. Across the lawn, Clara stood by our truck, phone raised. "Taking photos of our logo," Lily whispered. My phone buzzed, a message from a chef. "Need to double your order next week. Best produce I've found." Proof that truth grows louder than rumors. When dessert arrived, the head chef stepped out from the kitchen. "Everyone," he announced, "these strawberries came from Lena's farm." Applause rippled through the room, polite at first, then genuine. Clara's smile froze, her perfect mask cracking for a moment. Mother leaned in, curiosity lighting her eyes for the first time. "Magazine features," Evan said quietly, "and a USDA project next month." The crowd shifted toward us, their interest blooming like late summer flowers. For the first time, I didn't feel small at their table. When the night ended, stars hung low over the mansion. Evan took my hand and said, "They still don't see us." I looked up at the sky, endless and honest. "No," I whispered, "but others are beginning to." The drive home was silent, except for gravel beneath the wheels. Behind us, the lights of their world flickered, fragile as pride. Ahead, the road curved toward the dark fields that waited and believed. 3 years passed before the next call came. Mother's voice was too sweet, too careful. "Just a small family meeting tomorrow, dear. 2:00. Evan looked up from his notes, already sensing the storm. We drove there in silence, past frozen fields and tired fences. The mansion looked the same, but smaller somehow. Inside, the air was heavy with perfume and fear. Father sat at the head of the room like a fatting monarch. Clara and Darren beside him, postures stiff, smiles brittle. Only Lily looked uneasy, twisting a napkin in her lap. "Thank you for coming," Father said, eyes avoiding mine. Darren slid a folder across the coffee table. "Some unfortunate financial issues have arisen," he began. The word unfortunate dripped like oil. Mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue that stayed dry. "We may lose the lake house," she whispered theatrically. Clara folded her manicured hands. "Family supports family, Lena." Evan stayed silent, watching every move like a chess player. "What does this have to do with us?" he finally asked. Darren smiled, the kind that hides desperation. "We'd like to consolidate family assets. Your farm could help." He tapped the folder, valued at $380,000. A generous offer for them, a theft for us. Father leaned forward. "This is your chance to give back." I felt the same burn I'd felt at my wedding. "You mean sell everything we built?" I said quietly. "No one's asking you to give it away," Clara added. Her voice trembled on the word asking. "We need an answer today," Darren said, glancing at his watch. Evan's tone stayed calm. "You'll have it in 48 hours. Mother gasped like he'd insulted God. 2 days. Your father hasn't slept in weeks." Evan stood, his hand finding mine. 48 hours. We left them frozen, their world cracking in silence. The drive home felt heavier than any harvest season. As soon as we arrived, the phone rang. Our neighbor Frank's voice crackled through static. "Heard city folks asking about your land. Everything okay?" Before I could answer, another call buzzed in. "Teresa from the extension office. Just checking on rumors." Then a third, Chef Anthony confirming next season's orders. Each call a reminder of who truly stood with us. Evan hung up and exhaled slowly. They'd sell our soul for their pride, I said. He nodded. Then we'll make sure they can't. After dinner, he led me to the barn office. He unlocked a drawer I'd never seen before. Inside were papers, thick and official. Certificates, patents, financial reports. All under one name, his. I stared, not breathing. What is this? Evans smiled faintly. The reason will be fine. He opened a laptop, and a logo appeared, Green Edge Technologies. Numbers filled the screen, impossible and real. 46 million valuation, 28 active patents, he said. The truth hit me harder than any insult. He had built an empire quietly, beneath their scorn. You let them believe we were struggling, I whispered. I wanted to see their hearts, he replied. I closed the laptop and took his hand. Then let's show them what they tried to steal. That night, we drafted documents, gathered every receipt, every loan. By dawn, the table was covered in proof and resolve. Outside, the first light touched the fields. This time, it didn't feel like hope. It felt like justice, waiting to be served. 2 days later, the gravel crunched under expensive tires. Clara's SUV led the line, followed by 3 dark sedans. The morning fog clung to the fields like a warning. Evan adjusted his tie, calm in a way that steadied me. Inside the barn, the air smelled of hay and quiet defiance. We'd cleared the space, set a polished table where hay bales once stood. Our lawyer, Mr. Lawrence, waited with files neatly stacked. He gave a small nod as the convoy stopped outside. The barn doors opened, and my family entered like royalty in exile. Father walked first, his pride still intact but trembling. Mother clutched her pearls like they could hold her world together. Clara followed, her daughter trailing, eyes wide with confusion. Darren carried his briefcase like a weapon he could still control. Let's make this painless, he said, setting papers on the table. Evan offered coffee with a smile that wasn't a smile. Before we discuss the sale, there's one thing you should know. Darren frowned. The terms are clear, just sign. Mr. Lawrence opened a folder, slow and deliberate. This land, he said, belongs to Green Edge Technologies. The words hung in the air, heavy as stone. Darren blinked, confused. That's impossible. Evan's voice was quiet. I founded it before we were married. Father's jaw tightened, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Mr. Lawrence continued. All family loans were repaid within 18 months. He slid the receipts forward, each one stamped and signed. Mother's hand shook as she reached for them. And, he added, the property is under federal agricultural protection. The notary at the back nodded, confirming it with a seal. Darren's face paled, the color draining like spilled ink. You can't do this, he hissed. I already did, Evan said simply. Mr. Lawrence produced another document, his tone measured. The company you shorted last quarter, Green Edge Technologies. The silence was instant, complete. Clara stared at her husband, realization breaking through her mask. Mother looked at father, her expression cracking with fear. Their empire had turned to sand beneath their feet. Tiffany, Clara's daughter, spoke softly. Did you lose my college money? Her voice was small but sharp enough to cut the air. Clara's composure shattered, tears finally real this time. Evan placed another file on the table. Patents, contracts, valuations. 46 million in assets, he said quietly. Lily moved closer to me, her hand trembling but steady. I want to learn, she said, about what you built. I met her eyes, feeling the shift inside the room. For the first time, no one looked down on us. Mr. Lawrence cleared his throat. The matter is settled, no sale possible. Mother collapsed into a chair, whispering, What have we done? Father's voice broke, low and hoarse. We misjudged you. Darren tried to speak, but words failed him. The barn was silent, except for the soft hum of the wind. I stood, calm and certain, no anger left in me. This isn't revenge, I said. It's truth finally standing on its own. They filed out slowly, pride crushed beneath consequence. Lily stayed, eyes bright, a spark of something new. Evan reached for my hand as the doors swung closed. The fields outside glowed gold in the afternoon sun. And for the first time, the land felt like it was listening. Half an hour passed before anyone dared to speak again. Clara sat rigid, her blouse stained with a drop of coffee. Mother's eyes were red, but not from love or guilt. Father stared at the documents like they were written in fire. Darren shifted, the weight of failure pressing into his spine. I stood at the head of the table, steady as the beams above. You said family supports family, I began, voice even. But family doesn't destroy what others built to save themselves. Mother dabbed her eyes again, voice trembling just right. My blood pressure is unbearable, Lena. The doctor warned me. Clara leaned forward, tone suddenly soft. We can still fix this. A family partnership, perhaps. Darren nodded quickly, desperate to regain control. You provide the land. We manage the financial recovery. Evan didn't flinch. You mean you control what you already lost? Father's voice rose, the old authority cracking. 3 generations built our name. You'll throw it away over pride. I walked around the table, each step deliberate. These are transcripts, I said, laying down a thick folder. Calls you made to our restaurant clients, Darren. Sabotage in writing. He froze, color draining from his face. These, I continued, placing another folder beside him. Emails from you, Clara. I met her eyes. You told our friends we were playing farmer for fun. She looked away, shame flickering like weak flame. Mr. Lawrence stood, calm and precise. The SEC has opened an investigation into Mr. Grayson's firm, he said. Mother gasped, father went still, Clara's hand shook. The losses exceed $2 million across multiple accounts, he continued. And all hidden from this family. The last of their composure crumbled like old plaster. Darren muttered something about misunderstandings, but no one listened. Evan laid down another file, this one gleaming with embossed seals. Greenedge has received 3 acquisition offers this quarter, he said. The smallest would make us multimillionaires. Father blinked, words lost in disbelief. You're lying, he whispered, voice barely sound. I smiled faintly. The land you mocked is worth more than your legacy. Clara reached for her daughter, her voice breaking. Tina's future depends on us staying together as a family. Lily stepped forward, quiet but firm. Tina's future depends on truth, not manipulation. Silence settled again, heavy and final. Mother rose shakily. If you do this, you're no longer my daughter. I didn't move. Then maybe it's time to stop being your reflection. Father slammed his fist down, but the sound was hollow. Years of dominance, now only echo. Mr. Lawrence cleared his throat. This meeting is concluded. The notary stamped the final document, the sound crisp as closure. Clara gathered her purse, eyes downcast, her world unraveling. Darren stumbled toward the door, face gray, voice gone. Mother leaned on Father's arm, both smaller than I remembered. Only Lily stayed, her gaze steady, unbroken. Outside, the cars disappeared in a cloud of dust and regret. Evan stood beside me, quiet, grounding. They'll never understand, I said softly. They don't have to, he answered. The truth does. The barn light flickered, catching on the polished wood table. For the first time, it didn't look like a battleground. It looked like victory carved from patience. I exhaled, slow and deep, as the last echo faded. Justice had no roar that day, only silence strong enough to last. 6 months later, the fields were alive again. The morning light poured across rows of green like forgiveness. Students walked behind me, notebooks open, eyes wide with curiosity. We were teaching sustainable farming, something I once only dreamed of. Evan stood near the new greenhouse, explaining the irrigation sensors. The system saved 40% water and raised yields by 17. Every number was proof that patience could grow into power. One student, a young woman named Rachel, raised her hand. "My father says this kind of farming can't feed real people," she said. I smiled gently. Mine said the same, but now we feed hundreds. Her eyes softened, hope flickering where doubt once lived. Behind us, the barn stood tall beside a glass research center. Same wood, same roof, new purpose. At night, it glowed with the same twinkling lights from our wedding. Back then, those lights hung over pity and mockery. Now they shimmered over laughter, music, and shared triumph. The county supervisor handed us a plaque that evening. "For innovation in agriculture and rural development," he said proudly. Neighbors cheered, the same ones who had lifted us years before. Reporters snapped photos of the barn, calling it a beacon of renewal. Evan held my hand as I gave a short speech. "To growing what matters," I said, voice steady and unshaking. Applause echoed through the beams, honest and full. No judgment, no pretense, just people who believed in the soil again. Lily bumped my shoulder, smiling with dirt on her hands. She started her own garden design business, small but thriving. "Told you it would bloom," she said. I laughed softly. "You just needed sunlight and stubbornness." Later, Rachel found me near the dessert table. "My parents still think I'm wasting my degree," she admitted. "We're starting a scholarship," I told her, "for students like you." Her eyes glistened. "You do that." "Someone believed in me once," I said. "It's my turn now." The music swelled, warm and familiar, wrapping around the night. Then Lily approached again, expression careful. "Clara and Darren separated," she said quietly. "And Mom and Dad, they want to visit." The words lingered like fog over morning fields. Evan joined us, his hand brushing mine. "What do you think?" he asked. I looked at the barn, at everything it had come to mean. "Boundaries," I said finally, "clear ones." He nodded, and that was enough. As the last guests left, we walked to the highest hill. The sunset painted gold across acres of thriving crops. I knelt and scooped a handful of dark soil, warm and alive. "This is what they called worthless," I whispered. Evan smiled, showing me new plans on his tablet. Crops that could survive drought, feed nations, change lives. Success had never looked like this before. It was quiet, grounded, certain, a seed that kept growing. The sky dimmed, but the fields glowed faintly, steady as promise. Evan placed his arm around me, both of us facing the horizon. "They mock the dirt," he said softly. "And the dirt forgave them," I answered. The wind carried our laughter through the fields like prayer. What once was shame had become legacy. What once was loss had finally learned how to grow. The night settled soft over the fields, warm and endless. Lanterns swayed from the rafters, glowing like quiet stars. I stood beneath them, holding a jar of soil from our first harvest. It felt heavier now, richer with everything we had endured. People laughed inside the barn, music spilling into the night air. No pretense, no pretending, only truth growing freely. Lily danced barefoot with the farmers who once helped us plant. Rachel talked with Evan about scholarships and irrigation models. Each sound felt like a heartbeat stitched back into the land. I looked toward the horizon, where the lights of town shimmered faintly. Somewhere beyond them, my parents lived in silence and regret. Maybe they would come someday. Maybe forgiveness would too, in its own season. Evan joined me, his arm warm around my shoulders. He didn't need to speak, the quiet said everything. We had turned mockery into meaning, doubt into depth. The land they dismissed had become our cathedral. The soil beneath our feet was proof of everything real. And as the stars brightened above, I finally understood success. It was never about shining. It was about staying rooted and still choosing to grow.